So another curious thing about contemplative spirituality is this invitation to solitude, withdrawing from the busyness of life, if you will, to be alone with oneself and God. This practice of solitude is really about getting to an interior solitude. So whatever we need to do to get to that interior solitude is what's critical. But for most of us living in secular society, what that means is, we need to get away from the busyness of life, from the demands of relationships and work, to be alone with ourselves and with God. And this invitation to withdraw is sometimes met with criticism, as if withdrawing is counterproductive.
And
self-centered, navel gazing, that kind of thing. But what's interesting is that we find that actually withdrawing for moments of time, seasons of time, is really critical to a more effective engagement with the world, with our families, with our friends, with society at large, and the various ways in which we give of ourselves in this world through vocation and various kinds of profession. And so making time to withdraw actually frees us up to be more productive in life. So it feels counterintuitive. If I withdraw, is everything going to fall apart? What's going to happen to my work in this 20 minutes that I'm taking aside to devote to a contemplative practice, for example? Or what's going to happen if I go away for a weekend retreat? What's going to happen to my work, to my family, to my relationships? We'll see what that does. That those moments and those seasons of withdrawal, what that does is it really aims at these unconscious motivations and compulsions that are driving us to be in control, to have a degree of power over our life circumstances, for these compulsions for security and survival, or the affection and esteem. And so when we can withdraw for some time, the practice of withdrawal just unhinges these unconscious drives and compulsions that are actually wearing us out, and in some cases causing more harm than good. And so it's not that power, control, security, survival, affection, and esteem are in and of themselves bad things. We all need a certain degree of them. But it's our over-attachment to them that creates so much trouble for us. So by withdrawing, those compulsions can begin to be dealt with in such a way that we can have more effective engagement in the world when we re-enter, where we can be a little less attached to these drives and compulsions that are really self-serving. And the Christian path is about dying to self-emptying in such a way that we can really be in the flow of love and service to one another. No strings attached. No ego involvement, but just self-giving, self-emptying love and service. This is where life is, life in abundance. It's interesting that the natural world seems to be in the flow, but we as humans resist the flow. We find it incredibly difficult to get into the flow.
What's the flow? What do you mean by the flow?
The flow of life and love and creativity and generativity. There's something about us that resists,
like
or
escalators.
no, flow more like the river of life, right? Yeah, being in the flow where we're swimming in the sea of goodness and love and mercy and forgiveness and all these values that we ascribe to or we hope to attain, but we find it challenging to really live it out in our relationships and in our circumstances in life. Being in the flow, it's like we're tapped into this abundance of all the values that we hold dear in terms of love, forgiveness, mercy, compassion. and then those values can flow through us to really make a difference in the world. Something I wrote about in the book, that not so long ago, I woke up in the morning with a stiff neck, and I went in for my morning meditation, and afterward I was lounging in the chair, and all of a sudden I couldn't lift my chin to the sky. My neck was completely locked up, and that created a lot of pain. I thought maybe I'd pulled a muscle in my neck or something, and so I got in with my massage therapist, and she worked on my neck for over an hour, and there was no relief. And she said, "I think your cervical spine is out of alignment." Well, I'd never been to a chiropractor before, and she suggested that I actually consider going to a chiropractor. Growing up, I was taught to be suspicious of chiropractors, so I had never been. So I was a little nervous, but I did some research, and a friend recommended her chiropractor to me. And long story short, I ended up in his office, and he took a number of x-rays and did a number of tests, and the results were that, sure enough, my C2 was out of alignment. But not only that, there are problems throughout my entire spine that had resulted in pushing my cervical spine out of alignment. And so thus began like this series of visits to the chiropractor to realign my spine. And this meant a lot to me because for a number of years I had been praying to be more aligned with God. In chiropractic care, the alignment of the spine creates more flow for the nervous system to respond to life, and to respond to the energy of the body in a way that's just like a better flow and more responsive to the needs of the body. And in life, we can put out a lot of effort to do the right thing, be the right person, live in such a way that we're trying to make a difference. But if we're out of alignment with the Spirit of God in our life, all that goodness and righteousness isn't able to freely flow. And so there's a difference between putting a lot of effort into being a good person or being a good Christian, and being aligned with the Spirit of God in our life to really flow in the Spirit of God, you know? So it's interesting because as we're talking about this now, it seems clear to me that withdrawing, in a way, is like going to the chiropractor. It's like getting readjusted to be more aligned with really our identity as children of God. Like, so that alignment, withdrawing to engage, is about taking time away from all of the demands and responsibilities of life so that we can be more aligned with the flow of life. So we're not moving against the flow or in some kind of way like resisting the way in which life is flowing, but we can get aligned with the flow of this unfolding creative life force that's moving in us and through us and all around us, and we can cooperate with that in a better way.
What do you think is unfolding?
Some of your most simple questions are really deep. What's unfolding? Honestly, I'm not sure how it all ends, but what's unfolding in this moment is the opportunity to live and breathe and have being and be connected and open to love. Yeah, so I mean, I think what comes to mind is my personal experience of withdrawing and realizing how much of my life was caught up in getting love from others. So being whoever I thought others wanted me to be so that I could get some form of love from them. But this originally was very unconscious. I was sleepwalking through that originally. But when I woke up to it, I realized, wow, I really am ordering my life in such a way that I'm really trying to get love from other people. So to take me away from relationships for a period of time and my life's work for a period of time really exposed that drive, that compulsion in me to get love from others, so that then I could allow that kind of deficit within me that was crying out and needing something from others, like that could be really addressed in a spiritual way, so that I could become more whole in a sense. And then what that did was allowed me to then be a source of love to others and to not exploit other people like I had been before, like trying to get something from them, even if it was unconscious. So then I was like freer to be in that flow of love where I'm giving love, but I'm also able to receive it when it's freely given, and there's not the manipulation and the exploitation involved in trying to fill some kind of void in me that previously I'd been unaware of. Learning to love myself has been one of the greatest lessons in my life. And Jesus said that the greatest command is to love God and love neighbor as ourself. And so that's been a huge lesson for me through contemplative spirituality, really opening up, giving myself permission really to love myself, And it comes at the most basic level of self-care, just giving myself permission to take care of myself. And as children, we're dependent on others to take care of us. But as we grow up and into adulthood, hopefully we're less dependent on others like a child would be, so that we can take responsibility for our life and our relationships and be in a relationship of mutual giving and receiving. As I've come to know Jesus and learn from his life and his example, is that even though he was esteemed to be someone so much greater than the rest of us, he still took time to withdraw, to go into solitude, to go to the mountain and pray, to get up early in the morning before all the crowds were demanding from him. And it's like, man, if Jesus had limits and knew his own limitations and his need for a higher power and to tap into practices of prayer and retreat that would really fuel him and allow him to access this greater part of who he was so that he could be of service to others. And it's like, who am I to resist such a practice, And personally, I think I need a whole lot more of that than Jesus may have needed, so that I can access, my highest self, my truest self, to be of service to others.